The so-called launch season is over, which means winter test days are just around the corner and drivers, it's time to start the engines. Now this typically is extremely important for the teams, but the fans are also often eagerly awaiting the test season. Now in this video we'll tell you everything that you need to know about this week's testing days that are coming up. This year, there are no less than 23 races in the Formula 1 calendar. There are, of course, two newcomers to the calendar in Qatar and Las Vegas. The Formula 1 season will start on Sunday, the 5th of March, with the Bahrain Grand Prix. For this reason, the test days are also held at the Bahrain International Circuit, well, to save money and to be more efficient as a sport. On Thursday the 23rd, Friday the 24th and Saturday the 25th of February this week, the teams will send their new cars out onto the track for the first time. In the context of cost saving and a number of regulation changes, testing is only taking place for 3 days this year compared to the 6 days we've had in the past. These 3 days must be divided between the two drivers of each team, which in practice amounts to around about 1.5 days of testing per driver, obviously. Unlike in previous years, the test days last half an hour longer this year. The morning session starts at 10 AM local time, which means an early start of 7 AM in the UK or even earlier at 2 AM Eastern if you're in the United States. The test days are divided into a morning session and an afternoon session with a break in between. Instead of 4 PM, the test days will now last until 4:30 PM UK time, which suggests that the break has been extended by half an hour or so. We're looking at Thursday the 23rd of February with things kicking off at 7 AM until 11 AM and then a 12:30 PM to 4:30 PM afternoon. That will be the same on February the 24th and of course the 25th. Now you can watch the Formula 1 test days if you have Sky Sports F1 in the UK. But if you can't watch on TV wherever you are, do not worry. GPFans will have a live blog on gpfans.com and you can also read an extensive summary of the testing in both the morning and afternoon sessions after they're done. Now, why are the test days important? The Formula 1 teams run numerous simulations during the development of a new car, but during the test days, the cars are really tested in racing conditions for the first time. No matter how good a wind tunnel or the simulators are of the teams in this modern era of the sport, something is always going to come to light when a car is actually put on track. Take a look at the Mercedes team last year, for example. In the wind tunnel, the W13 was a car to be seriously reckoned with, but once on track, everything turned out to be a bit of a calamity. The test days are therefore extremely important and offer the opportunity to address any problems or defects that the car's design might have. Performance is not high on the agenda here. The teams mainly want to test the reliability of the materials being used. Finding the right adjustments or developing some updates to improve performance in certain areas will come later on, particularly throughout the season. That is also one of the reasons that you should not attach too much importance to the lap times. If your favourite team is lower on the lap times list than hoped, don't panic. During the test days, it is impossible to say how much fuel a driver is driving with, what setup he's driving with, how far open the engine is in terms of using its maximum amount of power, and so on. In addition, the teams in particular that are somewhat lower in the pecking order sometimes choose to drive a so-called glory lap. One lap as hard as possible around the circuit with very little fuel and brand new slicks on in order of finishing towards the top of the timing charts. Despite the fact that the times are not representative, this will still often generate great media attention for those cars lower down the pecking order. One car is driven during the test days. This means that, for example, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez have to share the car. On paper, this looks inconvenient because, for example, the two gentlemen have different dimensions and therefore need different racing cars. It takes the teams time to convert the car when drivers are changed around, and they don't have much time anyway to do this during testing. A few years ago, however, it was decided to drive with just one car to save on costs. Especially for the smaller teams, it can be difficult to have two cars ready for the start of the season. Now, this is a term you will hear regularly during the test days, sandbagging. This means that the teams do not want to reveal all of the car's performance potential to try and throw off the competition around them. It refers really to fictional sandbags that a team would hang on the car to reduce performance, to weigh it down. The standard discussion during test days is therefore always whether a team is actually sandbagging or whether their performance is realistically disappointing. Another recurring phenomenon during the test days are the special liveries that the teams sometimes appear with on the test track. Almost every year there are a number of racing stables that choose to appear on the circuit in a temporary design. This can be done, for example, to hide technical features on the car or because agreements with certain sponsors have not yet been finalised, but it also simply is just a nice bonus for the fans. Usually they look pretty good and the fans start asking the question, why can't the car look like this every single week throughout the season? There will be plenty decided then over the next few days of testing this week in Bahrain. You can follow it all on GPFans.com. Hit subscribe down below to stay up to date with all the news and of course all of the current events in Formula 1 here on the YouTube channel and GP Fans Global across social media for live updates of all of the testing.